Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday, that one day of the week when we talk all things one series and one series only. And today, if you hadn't guessed by the very blue theme of the day, we're talking Blueming.
Yay!
Cute!
I'm excited.
I'm excited to talk about this. This is going to be an interesting one, I think, because I was so excited about this show. We talked about it with our friend Robbie over on his YouTube channel. I mean, I was dying to watch the show, and I had a really interesting experience with it.
I feel like there was some PTSD from semantic error ending. Like whenever the BLs, the KBLs give us something we don't expect, it shocks us and we don't know how to recover. And it takes a minute for people to kind of get going again. Because after Light on Me, it happened. And there were like a handful of good KBLs. Like we loved Behind Cut.
Behind Cut is amazing.
I really liked Kissable Lips. And the same thing I feel like happened after Semantic Error, where we have like Cherry Blossoms After Winter is finally slowly getting its comeuppance. Blueming, I feel like there's a little bit of discourse going on where people are like, I watched this show finally. And also we'll get into the nuts and bolts because it's available on HEE, and I feel like that is weird for a KBL.
It is different for a KBL for sure.
Yeah, because they're almost always on Viki. The same thing with K-dramas. I found Ichi because of a K-drama that I wanted to watch. And that's how then, I mean, maybe Gen Y season 1 came first because that's where it was. But then there was another K-drama that I liked and watched on there. Okay, so let's get to the facts before we get to the fun stuff. So again, it's on Ichi. Came out this year. It's 11 episodes, and each episode is about 14 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's a quick watch.
Altogether, it's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. It's a fun little watch. Okay, so Hyung Da-eun is played by Jo Hyuk Jun, and Cha Si-won is played by Kang In-bin.
Un-bin, I think.
Okay.
I actually feel it'd be easier if I saw it in Hangul.
I know.
You should start putting it in Hangul, and because that'll make things way easier for us.
True.
Because we can read Hangul.
I was gonna say, because our Thai lessons, the Hangul reading has been very helpful for.
Yeah, William teaches us like using Hangul for pronunciation. It's like a weird mix of English and Hangul, but it really helps.
It's because you're always taught. When we started learning Korean, you're taught to never look at romanization. And you can learn the Korean alphabet in a good 30 minutes. Like, it's super quick. I can read every Korean ever. I don't understand what I'm saying, but I can read it. And so like when William is like, this is how it's pronounced, and then writes it in Hangul, we're like,
oh my God, this makes so much more sense. All of a sudden it clicks.
We sound so much smarter than we are.
Yeah, I promise we're not that intelligent. Okay. Cha Si-won is popular.
What you thinking about?
It's so difficult for me ever since you called my audiobook voice
your
my
bed voice.
Every time
I listen to a ton of audiobooks, and audiobooks are more animated. Yours is like it's like a phone sex hotline.
No, it's supposed to be like a TV voice. No. I don't want to do this. You read the synopsis.
No, you're so good. The people demand
it. No, it's terrible.
The people demand it.
Who people?
Somebody recently said you asked you to read something. They were like, "We want Ayla to read this." Who was that?
Yeah. Yeah, my like favorite Twitter follower, I think, was like, I want you to do the voicemail for our bar, and I was like, I'll do it. Send me a script.
Yeah.
Also, just so you know, that thought flashed through my mind when we had to do the series Sunday with Chris and Portia, like as I was starting to read it, and I was like, it was difficult for me. Okay.
Get to it.
I apologize for my voice, everyone. This is my professional voice.
Some people like that.
Cha Siwon is popular among people wherever he goes. In his childhood, Siwon was teased by his younger sister that he is ugly. Since then, Siwon put a great deal of effort to become handsome, and he has succeeded. Being in college now, Siwon did not doubt that he will be the most beloved person on the campus. However, there's a guy called Kyung Da-eun who has a perfect look, gets straight A's, comes from a rich family, and even has a great personality.
What a weird synopsis.
That's it. That's the synopsis.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's not wrong.
It's funny because I remember I think I remember either reading the synopsis or watching the trailer and being confused by it because it was just basically about like a popular boy. Oh, it was because when we were doing that review when we were talking about the upcoming KBLs with Robbie, I don't think the trailer was out.
Like, no, it was because that's what sold me on it. I watched the trailer before we did that YouTube.
Oh, because I only read the synopsis and was like, wait, what?
See, I never read synopsis before I watch a show ever, which is sometimes that like
gets you in
comes back to haunt me literally because like I didn't read the synopsis before I watched He's Coming to Me. And like in the first episode, Singto dies, spoiler, he's a ghost.
Yeah.
And I was like so shook. Like I was so upset. I was like, did I just watch him die? Yeah. Like I was so upset. And so if I read the synopsis, I would have known. But like
True. So, and the other part of this, which I know that you don't like, is that this kind of picks up what feels like mid-story.
Right.
Like
I need establishing stuff. Like I'm big on story.
Right.
So I want you as a storyteller to like draw me into this world versus dropping me into a world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it took me a good 3 episodes to like kind of catch up and figure out where we were.
Right. Figure out what was going on. That did irk me at first. But so that being said, I actually think this is a great show. I really like this show.
I watched it twice already.
I really like this show. I think I didn't like it the way I was expecting to because I loved the trailer so much. I was looking forward to this so much. Like I watched the trailer for this before I had watched Semantic Error.
Okay.
And I had watched the Semantic Error trailer and I genuinely thought that I was going to love this more than Semantic Error, that I was going to love this more than any other KBL I had ever watched.
Oh,
like I really, really loved this trailer. And so I think I had like maybe overhyped it to myself that then when it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, I was like, oh. But it's a great show.
You know what I think I've realized now is that you have to go into each KBL completely separately. I think I've watched almost every KBL at this point that's come out this year. And they're all so different because I am madly in love with Cherry Blossoms After Winter. But if you're coming from Semantic Error, it is going to really shock you.
Well, I mean, it's like so I think what confuses us as viewers is that like for so long and in so many other ways, K-dramas, right? Like Korean media follows in each specific genre, right? So like K-dramas versus like Korean action movies versus, right? Like, so like most Korean media, K-pop, follows a very specific formula.
Right.
And even though it's all different, it's not carbon copies, it's not plagiarized, it's not boring because you're watching the same story over and over. It follows a specific formula. And that's one of the reasons K-dramas for so many people are comfort shows, is because it follows this formula and that's like safe and comforting. It's why like people have comfort shows that they watch over and over again. You get that with K-dramas where you've got this formula where like the story may be different and the setting may be different and the people may be different, but the formula is so recognizable. And so I think what's happening with KBLs is they're not following a formula. And I think that like people who consume Korean media are like confused by that.
Well, and also I would say if you come from Thai BLs for the longest time all kind of look the same. They all were very uniform. And they
followed a formula.
Yeah. And I would say like, I would say that KBLs kind of follow what K-dramas do, where like you have these like outliers that are like Something in the Rain that's like more aesthetic and more like moody, or you have like the older K-dramas like That's Okay It's Love, and now you have all these Netflix K-dramas that are really different and look and all present very differently. And so so these KBLs are fitting, 2 years of content, and you're seeing literally every style. And so to jump from one style to the next, I think is a little jarring for people, because I think we expect them to be like the Thai dramas. It's almost like when we went from like a Sodas or a Together to an Itse. Itse was so groundbreaking because it was just different.
Right. It was, and like, I mean, it was quality in a way that we had never seen. Not that Sodas is not quality. Sodas does have quality. It's just a different kind of production value.
Right.
And so, like, all of this is being said, Blooming's a great show. It really is. Like, this is a great series. It's a really solid KBL, right? It follows the dynamic of a KBL, right? Like short episodes, like quick watch.
Yeah.
A great storyline. I think they took, so like this is by the same director that did To My Star.
Yeah.
Which I love.
And Where Your Eyes Linger.
Right. So I love To My Star.
Yeah.
And I think I can, like, this makes sense to me that it's the same director.
Yeah.
And I think that like this director took kind of what they wanted for To My Star that they maybe couldn't do in terms of like the intimacy and the relationship.
Yeah.
And it's in Blueming.
Yeah.
Because we do get the intimacy and we do get a relationship in a way that like we've really only ever seen otherwise in Semantic Error. And in Semantic Error, it's such a fraction.
Yeah. It's the last episode.
Right. And so that is very cool. And I think the story is, or the relationship, a little, on some level, like a little heartbreaking.
Yeah, it felt disjointed to me at the end because, okay, so you have, so where it drops you in is that, what's the main character's name? Siwon is, the kid that, he's kind of the main character, right? Like, he's the one that comes from this family. He was like a fat kid. His mom works for a protein shake company. Or like that's the protein shakes were like how she got him fit. So I guess like that's what it is. And then he goes to college, and I guess he's heard about Daeun on campus and is like threatened by his popularity because he's always been the cool kid, right? Like that first scene, you see him like stand up to hand out the papers, and then they're like, we're looking for a leader, and they all just like look at him because they're like, he's the guy. And then you have that conversation with him and like one of the students or the student leaders where he's like, oh yeah, I heard there was another handsome guy in your class. And it's like, okay, we get it. And so like they establish it really vaguely, but you don't understand why there's so much like animosity.
Right. Like, why is this a rivalry? It doesn't make sense.
At the bar when he's drunk, he's like, I hate you. And you're
and you're like, why? Because he's
cute.
Handsome? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, I kind of get it, but like, no.
Yeah.
It's aggressive. But of course, then we get a great drunk scene where he fully goes and like spends the night with this. Is he a stranger? Like, that's what I don't understand.
That's right. Like it. Do
they know each other?
The storytelling is a little bit disjointed here. It just is.
It's a great watch. I loved it.
It's a great watch. It's so interesting. And like this is the only time I have been like self-conscious about saying, because like even when we did Beloved and House I Do, and I was like, yeah, this one just didn't really hit for me. Yeah. Like I'm usually pretty honest, but this one, like I don't want to misrepresent myself in such a way that like it seems like I didn't like the show. I did. It just came down to like,
I think you can love a show and be critical of it, just like You're My Sky. We know that the time jumps weren't great.
But so yeah, the storytelling is a lot disjointed here. But I think to the director's credit, to the story's credit, to the actor's credit, you still love it so much. Yeah. Like you can still be invested, which is unique. Because I think in any other show, if you had these kinds of like storytelling holes, there's no way you could still be invested.
Work. Yeah.
Right.
I also think it's credit to these two actors had such good chemistry.
Yeah.
I could not get it out of my head that Siwon looked like Win Medawin. Like, that's all I saw when I looked at him.
Interesting.
He looks so much like Win Meadowin to me.
He does, but only after you told me that.
But like a Korean Win Meadowin.
I didn't see it before you told me.
I think it's the hair.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the hair.
Win has
a
very
face.
specific hairstyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like couldn't get that out of my head. And Da-eun plays an interesting character. He plays very much like a Tupfa, where he's very straight faced, but he's a little more affectionate.
I was gonna say I don't know that I would call him straight faced,
because he does a lot of staring in this show,
right? But I don't know that I would call that straight faced. I think
he's like contemplative.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he has that scene on the beach where sweet little Siwon is like going through it, like he's like word vomiting basically,
right?
Where he's like, I've told you a lot about me, I want to know more about you, and he's like explaining why he wants to know. And so then Da-eun's just like staring at him, and this is when we get our first kiss, and it's truly a really great first kiss. I
love this scene,
because what I always dislike about BL kisses is the lack of like appropriate hands. And the fact that he immediately holds his face, I'm like, yes, that's
and
how we do this.
With the sunset and on the beach. And I mean,
also the
love
fact that
beach frolic.
The fact that Siwon gets super eager and like kisses him and hurts him a little is really kind of funny. It's very like reminiscent of Gen Y season 1 with like the Kim cop and the car kiss. I love that.
Yeah, I did love that scene. It's a great scene. But yeah, I think I don't know that I would call him straight face, mostly because like I think I'm having trouble with the comparison to Tupfa the character,
right.
Because I actually don't love Tupfa as a character. I didn't buy into Tupfa until episode 11, and there are 12 episodes in You're My Sky, so like that's a long time to wait. Like that's a long time to hold out.
Did you prefer one of these boys over the other? Or did you pretty much just like them as a pairing?
I liked them together. Yeah, I liked the dynamic.
Yeah.
Because I think that if you had one without the other, it would honestly, they would be kind of like a flat, it would be a flat character.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly like what the inciting incident where we see who likes who. Is it the beach?
I guess I feel like, so the way I interpreted it is like, I kind of always just understood what was happening there without there having to be some sort of like incident or confession or whatever.
Right.
Like it was just kind of obvious to me what was going on. So I wasn't necessarily looking for some kind of like inciting like moment,
or maybe like the moment that you know that one likes the other, or is it just kind of naturally happens to both of them at the same time?
I think or for me it was just like implied. Like I think I just like understood what was happening here.
Here's the other question: did you catch that the scene where they've just gotten into that argument about the fact that Da-eun has kind of pushed Siwon's movie into like this awards thing or the film festival thing, they have that argument where he realizes, he's like, why did you do it? And he's like, that whole scene was great because he was like, think of me as thoughtful. And he was like, what? Like, no, you lied to me. Like you were deceitful. You, just because you like me doesn't mean you should like push my work that's not good enough forward.
Well, and doesn't mean that you have any ownership in like the decisions.
Yeah.
I think that was another thing that because I don't love that in a character when it's like, and this happens in a lot of BLs with a lot of BL characters. It's just kind of a BL character trope on some level of this idea that like, because you like this person, all of a sudden you have some sort of ownership
or responsibility
over them or their feelings or their actions or their work, right? Like, and I never really loved that dynamic.
Okay, so after that scene,
not that I didn't like them together again.
So after that scene, you see Da-eun go home and go to bed, and it took me a second to realize from that moment that he lays down, a dream starts. Where he sees his parents in the kitchen and they're like getting ready to go to Jeju. Like that whole sequence is a dream.
It's a dream, yeah.
Which it took me a second because then the next thing you see is him and Siwon meeting again and then walking through that field holding hands, like they're on the bus. He's like doing another staring thing on the bus. They see that couple and like they have that moment. They kiss, and then it cuts to Siwon in bed looking at his phone. I think he was the one that texted Da-eun and it was like, is this how we're going to end it?
Right.
Are we really over it? So like, again, with the storytelling, I get it, unless you're like really paying attention and really focused, like it took me a second to like connect those dots of like, this was a dream. Now we're back in reality.
Right.
And like,
this is definitely not one of those where you can be like playing on your phone while you're watching it.
Because the confusing part was that Siwon was the one that texted Da-eun and was like, are we really over?
Right.
Is this how it's going to end? And you're like, wait, I thought you were the one that was supposed to be mad. Like, why are you going back to him? Like, I think he was trying to push Da-eun to apologize.
Yeah, that's what it read as to me. Like, not that he was like coming back and like, because here's the thing. I think that you're allowed to like in any kind of relationship get mad, get annoyed. Like, right? Like you're allowed to be annoyed at another human in your life, especially if it's somebody that like obviously has some sort of like effect on your emotions, right? Whether that be like a sibling, a parent, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a friend, right? Like a roommate, like a coworker, right? Like anybody that has some sort of like effect on your emotions, like you're allowed to be annoyed and get in a fight and not
feel like it's the end of the relationship,
right?
Yeah.
Because if you're putting those, and that's kind of how I read that, is that like he was like, no, I want to be able to like be annoyed at you for this, and it's okay that I'm annoyed at you for this, and like does that mean we're gonna end it? Like that's crazy. Like that's kind of how I definitely was on his side with that whole like situation.
I feel like I've seen this a lot in BLs lately, where we always talk about like the who fell first, who fell harder, and I felt like Da-eun fell first, Siwon fell harder, and the one who falls harder is the one that always has to fight for the relationship almost, because they're the ones that are like, wait a second. You got me into this situation. Like I fell for a boy.
Did this to me.
Yeah. I like you. I like a man. And so he's having to like fight him, because honestly, the scene when they get back together is truly this, like, it's so sweet. And so like when Siwon is like, that's all you had to say. Like, that's all you needed to do. Like he says something along the like, when you say that, it makes it all better. And you're like, oh.
No, I really like that moment. I think one of the things that I love so much about Blueming is it feels very relatable, because like I've been in that position before where like I'm a pretty emotional person, and it like drives some people in my life kind of crazy, and like, but all you have to do is be like, I'm sorry. And that like it drives my older sister like crazy, because she cannot comprehend why I am the way that I am. Like she doesn't get it. And like, and there have been so many times when like my younger sister, who I am like very, very close to, she'll be like, it's Ayla. All you have to do is be like, I'm sorry. Like, I still love you. Like, whatever. And then it's like, it's fine. Yes, it's totally fine. But like, if you hurt my feelings, I'm not going to like pretend like you didn't hurt my feelings. Cause like, don't be mean.
But you're not disowning this person. Right. You're not walking away from the relationship.
I'm just like, you hurt my feelings. And like, as a fellow human, like you should feel bad when you hurt someone's feelings, and you should say you're sorry. Like it's not that hard to say you're sorry. And so all you have to do is just like say something. And so it's like in that moment I was like, that's so relatable, because it's like all you're doing is, because it is like on some like the Virgo in me is like, it's a matter of principle, where you're like, until they do the thing they're supposed to do, like I'm not gonna give in. And it's like, that's all you have to do. It's so easy.
So good. The other thing that I want to talk about is the acting from Kang
Eunbin.
Oh my God. We really do need to write this in Hangul, because I feel like that would make so much more sense in my brain.
Here we go. Hold on. I've pulled up the
zoom in. Yep. Kang Eunbin. I got it. Eunbin. Okay. His acting in the scene.
Oh my God. our birthdays are so close to each other.
That photo looks so different because his hair is so different.
It does not look like him at all.
So, wait, what did that say? Is he an influencer?
He's a model.
Amazing.
Chris Strickland coming for your job.
Yeah. The scene where he and his mother are having that confrontation and he lets out this guttural cry. I was just floored in that moment because I was like, this isn't like a normal cry. This is like his whole life he's struggled with this situation and he's finally able to have this emotional breakthrough with his mom, who still doesn't get it because he was like, she never apologized.
Right.
He apologized to her, but she never apologized because she was like, I did my best. And when he lets out that cry, it happens. I feel like somebody else does it. It could be Pee-Pee or something from It's A or I Promised You the Moon. But there's something about those moments of like the real crying where there's noise to it, not just like a single tear, which I love those, and those definitely have a place. I love
a single tear. Is it maybe Bilkin and I Told Sunset About You? Maybe. Like his that cry scene with his brother that's like pretty intense.
Yeah. But when he's just standing there with his mom in front of him and he just like starts to sob and you're like, I don't think this boy has ever cried in his entire life, because that's what it feels like, that he is portraying this emotion that he could never portray because he was trying to be this perfect son for his mom, because like his mom was cheated on. And there you see this scene and it breaks my heart as someone who like raises other people's kids and like works in childcare, where parents put their whole worth and being on their children, because she's like, you guys are all I have now. And I'm like, oh girl, you need to reevaluate that, because your kids are going to be in therapy for a very long time. And it's one of those moments where it's like he is able to release 20 something years of him having to be like some type of fulfillment for his mother.
Right.
And it is just amazing. Like the way he acts that is, I wasn't like emotional about it. I was just like in awe of it. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
This is like true acting.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful scene.
Yeah, I mean, and also like the filming style of this show is really pretty. Mm-hmm. It's really aesthetic. I will say it read to me, I made this comment earlier, like a little bit like it's like the indie girl of KBLs. Yeah. It's like a little bit like the quirky, filmy, like film geek.
We're being aesthetic for the point of being aesthetic.
Yeah. It's definitely that. I mean, it's pretty. Don't knock it if it's beautiful.
One of my favorite K-dramas is Something in the Rain, and it is very reminiscent of that, where it's like it's very dark and like even like the coloring is moody and like that's funny.
Yeah, it's like the indie girl of KBLs, which is like, it's fine if that's what you're into. But I think that the other thing about that is that filming style, because it's so aggressive is the wrong word, but because it's so intense, it tends to mask a lot of other things. It tends to overtake. Right? Like the aesthetic of it all has a tendency to overtake some other aspects.
Right.
Of the
it's like stimulating your visual senses. So you kind of forgive a lot of the other things.
Yeah.
Interesting. The other things that I want to talk about are the girl, the girl that likes one of the boys.
Oh, the little friend.
And it's so funny because like it's kind of glossed over. Like she has that scene with the other guy where she's like, oh, he's like, you like him, and she's like, yeah, I do, and it sucks. But there's not a lot of development of the thing,
right?
Like she has that second.
I almost feel like she was thrown in just for the sake of like having a girl that likes one of the boys, like for no other purpose. Which we like.
Also, she has a moment with the sister. That moment with the sister is so funny because it's so confusing because it's so aggressive. When they first meet, after he's run into the painting and the sister's bringing the clothes. So the sister hides behind the pole, and she's watching this interaction between that girl and some random guy. And then she comes up and she's like, I want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is happening here? This is aggressive, because it's a high schooler meeting a college freshman, which like maybe there's like a year or two difference from them. But she's like, I want to hang out with you, which is relatable, because when I moved to New York City, I very clearly was like, I want a friend date. If I meet somebody that I think I like and I'll get along with, like, I'm going to be like, hey, let's go to coffee. Like, hey, let's hang out. Like, I was very intentional about like setting a date and time to like literally friend date. And so it felt very much like that, but it comes across as like very aggressive.
I feel like I've seen this same dynamic though play out in something else. I wish I could remember. It's another piece of Korean media where it was like, it involved a high schooler really, really pursuing a friendship with a college kid. I wish I could remember which show it was. Was it Pumpkin Time, maybe? I can't remember now, but I've seen this exact dynamic in another like piece of Korean media before. So it didn't really throw me off, because I was like, oh, I've seen this before. Like, this is fine. Like, this is normal.
I mean, we see it happen in one of my favorite Thai BLs, which is This Is Love Story.
But that was a little bit different because it was very purposefully romantic. It was like, yeah.
And so like it's back to the not me of it all, where it's like everyone is gay.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily read as romantic, but there is this like this air of like what's happening here.
I just think BL fans in general need to be careful with this, because this is now the third show in a row where you have gotten yourself into a situation. Because like with Not Me, and we were all guilty of this, every single one of us, I don't know one single person that watched Not Me and wasn't like,
it's Graham with Black.
It's Graham and Black.
Yeah.
Right. And then when it wasn't,
I was never rooting for Graham and Black. No, like, I never understood those shippers.
Just assumed that was a thing, right?
Because like of the letters. I mean, how could you not?
I mean,
literally, no one's called Eugene.
Gene. and also because of like Graham's attitude like towards Black and around Black, and the way that they talk, like it just makes sense.
Note.
But then you also started and you were this didn't happen universally. It was you and like some other people. You weren't alone. Like you weren't the only one that did this.
I don't remember.
But the Black and Todd thing, there were some people that were so sure Black and Todd were like a romantic thing.
I was like, what's going on there?
Nah, they're just like friends that like really hate each other now. Like it's not that deep. Like it's not romantic.
Listen,
like it's not sexual.
Because Gunn has like been with so many people at this point, like you just assume if like some other boys in a room with him, like he's gonna kiss them.
I didn't.
It's like Bilkin at this point. So, like, Bilkin's in a room.
So like there's that happened and Not Me. And then in the tuxedo right now, there was like a couple where in the beginning we were like, oh, this is the side couple, but they're not at all.
It's here's what I'm gonna label it. Here's what I'm gonna label it. It's the V principle. If there's any eye contact for more than 2 or 3 seconds, we think they're in love. That's what it is. It's the V principle. I'm naming it.
It's the V trope.
Right. It's like
the law of V.
Yeah, the law of V. Where it's like if there's any type of like meaningful eye contact, they're clearly gonna bang.
Watch your back for a pinky touch.
Yes.
Although actually, oh my God, it's genius to call it the law of V, because it's actually a farce, right? That like we see the eye contact and we're like, oh, obviously they're going to be a couple, but then they don't actually be a couple. They don't actually become a couple, right? Like Dome and V.
Classic. Wrong person, wrong time.
Wrong everything.
But yeah, those two were very cute with their like jewelry making and like all that kind of stuff. Again, that was like very lightly touched on with like the conversation that the guy friend has with the girl, where she's like, yeah, I liked him. And then there's like that wild assault scene that happens between like her and that other guy. Like the side stories in this are so like, because this is such a short series, you get like 2 seconds of them and you're like, I remember that so clearly, maybe because it was a short series.
But also I can't remember why a lot of it happened, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so like that's, I mean, it's a great show. It's a great watch. It's a super quick and easy watch, which is amazing.
Right.
I also think that like one of the things that you have to like in a show like this is like that trope of like that rivalry trope. Not necessarily enemies to lovers, because like I don't think it was an enemies to lovers situation, but like the rivalry trope.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I love the beach frolic.
I mean, the beach frolic is iconic.
Yes. This show is
I love the bike riding, actually.
Yeah.
The bike riding is like, yeah.
It's kind of like comical a little bit. It's like very dramatic because he falls off the bike. And then we have the moment where he's like, can't you ride a bike? And then he like kisses his hand.
So we watched that episode together, and I remember when we were watching that episode, you were like, because he fell off the bike like in front of someone.
Oh yeah,
and you were like, is this man just not gonna acknowledge that this kid just ate it in front of him?
There's like literally like it's a walking trail, so there's people exercising. Like they just walked by. He's like, no big deal. I mean, he handled it very well. He kind of like the bike fell and he kind of stumbled out of it. But it's like, hey, anybody care? Nobody care.
No,
okay.
No.
Yeah, the bike riding was really cute. So this was an interesting show too, because the drop was handled very differently than anything else, because it dropped all at once.
Right.
And it dropped a little bit after the Korean drop.
Right.
So the international fans got it like I think a couple of days later.
Yeah.
And so we were, of course, seeing all the scenes. Like you see,
yeah, you had seen everything.
The blue scene. Right. You saw like all the different scenes.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting going into it, because I think I had ideas of like what I was going to be seeing. And then I didn't watch the story with just like a clear mind.
Right.
I was kind of waiting for certain things to happen.
Do we think this one's going to get edited into a movie?
I don't know.
I feel like this could be a good movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this could be a good movie edit, because usually when they do a movie edit, you get like the scenes get extended a little bit. And I think this show could benefit from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Has that happened to every short KBL?
I don't know.
It didn't happen to Light on Me, because Light on Me was really long.
Light on Me was a full series.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
It did for Where Your Eyes Linger, right?
Yeah.
There's a movie for Where Your Eyes Linger.
Wish You. Wish You
got a movie. Color Rush got a movie.
Behind Cut got a movie.
Right.
Tasty Florida got a movie. I think most of them got movies.
Did To My Star get a movie?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Because I've rewatched that series.
So this could go either way then, because this director did To My Star and Where Your Eyes Linger. And Where Your Eyes Linger got a movie, but To My Star didn't. So like,
yeah,
I guess we'll see what happens here. I wonder if it's based on demand, but no, because people are so rabid for To My Star.
Maybe it's based on like shooting content. Like if they have more shooting content.
And I bet it's based on just like directorial, like whether or not they as a director think it could be a good movie.
Potentially because they shot To My Star 2 around like probably right after this. There probably wasn't time for...
Or they thought that To My Star 2 was going to come out a lot quicker, right? And so maybe they're like, well, we don't need to do a movie in between because...
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was interesting.
It's a really cool Korean BL. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, it is very unique.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, like if you just look across all the KBLs, there's something for everybody.
There's so much variety in KBLs right now. It's crazy.
And I've liked a good bit of them. Did you like Where Your Eyes Linger?
It's towards the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
Honestly, what took me out of it is the adults playing high school students for like most of the series.
Right.
I was like, that man is clearly 42 years old. Like,
because I watched it when it first came out before KBLs were even a thing. So like it was neat to see the first KBL to come out and like the nostalgia of that.
Yeah, honestly, it was the I understand why they had to be adult actors, like, to tie up the series.
Right, because you get a time jump.
Right. But this man who, again, is clearly, like, in his late 30s, early 40s, playing a high school student was, like, tough for me.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, this really takes me out of this.
Yeah.
I understand for, like, budgetary reasons why they didn't just cast younger versions of these people, but
right.
I feel like it took me out more than it would have if they did it the opposite way, where they had like younger actors playing older adults. Like, I feel like that's easier. Just, I think coming from Western media, right, where we have that happen a lot. Yeah.
Anyways, I liked Blueming. I think it would be a rewatch.
I'd rewatch it for sure. And if they came out with a movie, I'd definitely watch it. Yeah.
There's a couple of KBL movies that I want to go back and watch because
only one KBL so far has really disappointed me. Like, honestly, every other KBL I think I'd rewatch.
Yeah.
There's only been one that I've been like,
because I love a good web drama. A lot of these KBLs, especially the early KBLs, felt very web drama-y to me, and that I definitely loved that aspect. And a lot of these actors that are in KBLs came from web dramas. Right. In fact, like 3 of the biggest ones came from web dramas that I had seen prior to like their KBLs. So that's been fun. The one of the leads in Cherry Blossoms After Winter, Kang Hui, was in a web drama that I really loved.
Cute.
And so it's been fun to see him like play this in this KBL.
Overall, honestly, I think that KBLs, I think this is just like a really solid addition to the KBL lineup. Like, this falls like solidly in the middle for me. Honestly, it's not even towards the bottom of my list. I genuinely did really, I liked the dynamic of the relationship itself, because it was so relatable. Like, it felt a lot more real than I think some relationships that we see and get. Yeah. And I really appreciated that. And then, I really liked the filming style. I liked a lot about it, but it definitely falls somewhere in the middle for me. Like I said, there's only one KBL out of all of them that I would never rewatch, that I didn't even make it all the way through. Right. And so, like, that's a pretty good ratio. I genuinely think KBLs are like up there as some of the like most high quality BLs that there are, like, out of all of the different regions that do them.
Right. The other interesting thing we love to talk about behind the scenes stuff is the fact that this went to Ichi, because all the other things that this director has done has gone to Vicky.
But again, the director doesn't always have. The director is not the one that has control. House. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's who they negotiate with.
The big thing that they're doing now is they're doing lives with a lot of these couples, a lot of the Korean ships. So they're about to do a Blueming live with the couple, and you can like submit questions.
Yeah, which is super interesting because like KBLs don't really push the ship work, or at least they didn't really until like Semantic Error and a little bit To My Star. But I wouldn't say To My Star did like ship work. I feel like they did like series promotion in more of like a press junket style kind of way. Like, you didn't really start seeing like actual ship work until Semantic Error.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see how this live with the Blueming boys goes, because I think they could be really interesting to watch, because like obviously from Semantic Error, Soham was like, bye.
Yeah, because was Semantic Error the first time KBL boys did a photo shoot? Like a released photo shoot?
I do not know enough to say yes to that confidently. I think so, but I genuinely just don't know enough to be confident in my answer.
Yeah, because we don't really get ship work from any of it. We just get like behind the scenes. We see them being like, I guess Semantic Error did that variety show appearance.
Yeah, they did a couple of appearances, and they did it like they did a couple of lives. Like they really did the ship work in a way that like no other KBL.
Cherry Blossoms After Winter is doing that too now.
Yeah. So I think it kind of like there was just no promotion until To My Star, and then there wasn't ship work in the same way that we like know ship work as until Semantic Error.
I think they tested with Light on Me because it came through Watcha. It was that
right. That's true. The Light on Me boys did do some.
They did that like the commentary. Yeah. You see them in like that same studio with like the like wooden bleachers. Right. They've done a little bit of that. And then I guess
they did a couple of appearances too, and they did a few like magazine interviews.
You see it a little bit with the Wish You boys because one of those boys has a YouTube channel. So he like documented certain things and like they have like friendship, whatever.
I'm so curious to see like where the world of KBLs will go. I think that Blueming is like it definitely. I think that we saw this shift in KBLs with Light on Me. Mm-hmm. And I think that like Semantic Error like took that and elevated it. Yeah. And I think that Blueming has taken that same road. Like I wouldn't say that Blueming elevated it in the same way that Semantic Error did, but like they didn't fall short. Like I think they're like on the same like wavelength in terms of like the way that they're handling the BLs. And so I'll just be so curious to see like how it continues to grow and evolve because like as we've talked about before, with KBLs, it has been like a flash flood. Yeah. In that, like, it went from like nothing, literally nothing, to then you have like ex idols in shows, to then you have currently promoting idols doing a song for a show, to actual current idols being in a show, and then just like a flash flood of idols. So, like, Hong Suk from Pentagon is in a show that like we're not sure if it's source material. The source material is BL. We're not sure if it's itself is going to be a BL once it's made. Right. But then like Yanin from Pentagon is also he's in a Chinese BL, which we all know is bromance, but like the source material is BL, and he even referred to it like at a fan sign as like he told a fan, he was like, it's boys and boys love. Yeah. Right. And you've got like all of these like currently promoting idols, the Ace Boy, Astro Boy,
June,
Ace. I was right the first time. Yeah, like actively currently promoting BL Boy and Idol. Mm-hmm. It's wild.
Yeah, and both of the leads in Semantic Error,
active idols.
And then there's a rumor about another idol. Yeah. Being like a major idol being cast in a BL. So yeah, it is interesting. I mean,
and then it's also I think interesting to see like the gay storylines become more prominent in K-dramas because like we got a little bit in was it Clean with a Passion for Now?
No. It was
what was the gay brother storyline in?
Yes, hold please. It was it was a similar title to that where it was like, oh gosh, I can see the whole drama.
Me too. I can see their house with the yellow door.
Yeah.
And there was that girl that was crazy and obsessed with the girl. And there was a stray cat.
I can't even begin to tell you how to even look that up.
I know.
I can't.
I can picture. I can see it. I can see them in the gay club. I can see them outside of the gay club.
Yeah. It was like
there's also an idol storyline in this K-drama.
What is the name of that drama? It's like,
but I remember when we watched that, you and I were both so impressed with that storyline because it was so just like real.
Right.
And that I think was the first time that there was like a really good gay storyline in a K-drama that I remember seeing. And then you had in the one that Bohyun was in that Minho.
Yeah.
Oh that I can't remember the name of either. Oh my gosh.
I'm blanking on literally.
I can't do. Oh my god.
That one was like, it was like a cartoony drama. I watched like half of it.
Yeah. I love An Bo-hyun, so I was like sold on it like before it even came. Even with the facial hair in that one, like I was here for it.
Right.
Hold on, because I love Bo-hyun. He's my
Love
he's
with
my
Flaws.
guy. Love with Flaws. That's the one. Love with Flaws is such a fun K-drama too. I really recommend watching that show because it's basically a BL storyline. It's kind of like what we get with like Puppy Honey. I mean, not in the same vein, but like how Afghan was like the side story in that, or in like Kiss Me Again, how like Tainu are the side story in that, right? Like Peak House the side story. There's like a side BL story in Love with Flaws, and Love with Flaws is super fun. It's about this couple where like the guy has like IBS. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. But it's also a really great like side BL storyline.
Yeah. Yumi Cells is the one that Anbo Hyun's in with Minho as the side character. There was also a GL side story in a drama called Nevertheless, which I really loved. It created a stir in Korea and was like very controversial, but I really loved it.
Yeah.
I love Song Kang so much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, the world of BL in Korea is like constantly evolving, and I feel like it's in this very unique place because we all know what happened with the To My Star 2 like fan sign situation where like it's getting there, but it's still not there. And so I think that like the evolution of this will be very interesting.
I can't wait for To My Star 2.
I know.
I'm dying. I hope that it's as good as I hope it will be.
I mean,
this director has not let me down. Yeah. I've loved everything she's done. So
and just like that cast, like it's gotta be like they're like, come on.
Yeah. Kang Min is truly one of my favorites. I know you like the other boy.
I do.
Yeah.
We have merch.
We do.
You should buy it.
Go buy it.
If you feel in your heart that you would like the merch.
Just support us. Yeah. This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.